Good morning. Welcome to East Bay EDA's speaker series event for the month of April about port economics. I'm Stephen Bader, the Executive Director. For those of you who don't know much about East Bay EDA, we're a 30-year-old regional economic development organization focused on business climate and a variety of other issues to help support the region's economic vitality and quality of life. We're excited about today's panel around the port and want to get right into it. So I'm going to briefly introduce the Executive Director of the port, Danny Wan, who was appointed to that role in November of 2019, but began working at the port in the 90s as an external legal counsel to the Aviation Division. From 2005-2008, he was Deputy Port Attorney and became Port Attorney after that, working on a broad range of issues in the conduct of the port's maritime, aviation, and commercial real estate businesses. Prior to his formal appointment as Executive Director, he served as both acting and interim Executive Director. He's been a public servant, leader, local community leader, and policymaker, and started his career as a public school teacher, and also was on the board of directors for the East Bay Municipal Utilities District. In 2000, he was appointed to the Oakland City Council, representing the Chinatown Grand Lake District, becoming the first council member in Oakland, openly LGBTQ. Mr. Wan believes in the transparency, common sense, and strong ethics, and I think leads the port in that way. Joining him, we have a number of fantastic panelists from a couple of our member companies, GSC Logistics, Southwest Airlines. And for those of you who are on today's webinar, stay tuned, because at the end, VP David Harvey is going to be drawing a couple of names to win 4-packs to fly on Southwest Airlines for you and your families. So as we get started, we're going to go ahead and turn to a quick video, and then Danny will open today's panel.
"2020 was a year like no other. We navigated a global pandemic, followed new health guidelines, implemented cleaning protocols, and worked from home when possible to slow the spread of COVID-19. Our hearts go out to all those who suffered loss in this challenging time." The Grand Princess coronavirus outbreak in March of 2020 was a public health emergency. As everyone's port, we became part of the solution and served in our role as a first responder. Despite the challenges in 2020, determination and resilience prevailed. Restaurants at Jack London Square pivoted to outdoor dining, food to go, and food deliveries. We kept Oakland International Airport, essential infrastructure, open and operating. Although air travel declined during the pandemic, we added new destinations. And OAK became the first airport in the country to offer free COVID tests for employees and the traveling public. At the seaport, we welcomed the largest vessel to call a U.S. port, the MSC Anna. Our maritime partners with the boom in e-commerce kept essential goods moving. Technology took on a larger role. Zoom became a household word and a common way for us to meet virtually. December 2020 ended with Jack London Square's first online tree lighting ceremony, to the delight of those who counted on us for a local celebration. January 2021 began with welcoming the delivery of the tallest cranes at Oakland and in the United States. These new cranes can handle the largest ships calling North America. Oakland will soon see its first port of call in 2021, with a ship carrying imports directly from China to Oakland, and the Center Point warehouse is the first completed building in the port's Seaport Logistics Complex. These major changes offer new business opportunities and new jobs. At Oakland International Airport, we have a new airline joining our operations, and the airport is the first to offer COVID-19 test kits in vending machines for passengers. 2021 is the year for planning. We must look beyond the pandemic and prepare for what's ahead. We'll create an inclusive overall seaport stakeholder group that will build upon established community engagement and include discussions about further development of the former Oakland Army base. We're exploring the possibility of a new passenger terminal at the airport, and we've initiated community conversations around the idea using virtual town hall meetings. We're working with the city to update its general plans and ensure the creation of an industrial sanctuary, which is vital to local and regional economic stability and jobs. As everyone's port, we invite you to join us on the journey in 2021 to plan for a brighter future.
Well, Thank you. Welcome to this seminar and the Port of Oakland. Good morning, everybody. And I hope you enjoy the video. I'm happy to be here, and it's my pleasure today to be the moderator for today's panel discussion. As you see the video, the Port of Oakland operates 3 lines of business, and that is the seaport, the airport, as well as our commercial waterfront, which encompasses about 20 miles of the Oakland waterfront. In this way, we are indeed everyone's port. But at the same time, we recognize that we are a landlord port, which means that the people that actually operates the businesses and the commerce and the passengers and the restaurants and offices are our tenants and operators. The port itself, the Port of Oakland itself, employs 500 employees, but the entire operation of the port is dependent on tenants and operators. And together, the port and the employers, the operators and tenants generate about 85,000 jobs in the East Bay in the Northern California region. In addition to the jobs, the Port of Oakland and its tenants and our partners contribute $698 million in state and local taxes, as well as the over economic value of the Port of Oakland and its activities is estimated to be about $130 billion. So that is why today I'm very excited to be introducing both the directors of our 2 revenue divisions, the Maritime, the Seaport, and also our airport. Mr. Bryant is our director of the Seaport, and as well as Mr. Bryant Francis, who is the director of Aviation, and Mr. David Arsenault, who is the president of GSE Logistics, and also David Harvey, who is the director of the Corporate Strategy Commerce Planning of Southwest Airlines. These people represent the breadth of the operations and the people who are, and the corporations and partners who are generating the economic activity both at the port and also the East Bay. So let's start with some introductions. David Arsenault is the president of the GSE Logistics, a leading third-party logistics provider serving Northern California and the Pacific Northwest markets, providing drayage services, transloading, deconsolidation, and other value-added logistics services. Mr. Arsenault has over 35 years of industry leadership experience with ocean carriers, marine terminals, logistics companies, intermodal equipment providers. And David also was previously the chief strategic officer for the intermodal equipment provider, Direct Chassis Link. So we welcome David today. We also welcome David Harvey, has been the Southwest Airlines since 1999 in various roles across technology, corporate strategy, commercial planning, network planning, and business development, corporate sales. Is currently serving as the vice president of Southwest Airlines business. David is multiple boards and advisory positions related to travel industry, including Global Business Travel Association and others. BTN, which is the Global Business Travel Association, Business Travel News, has twice named David among the top 25 most influential business in business travel. So we welcome David as well. And then my colleagues at the port, Bryan Brandis was appointed the Port of Oakland Maritime Director, June 29, 2020. He is responsible for all shipping and related activity at the seaport. Mr. Brandis is a 25-year maritime industry veteran. Before joining the port, Mr. Brandis was Vice President, Pacific Northwest Region Operations for FlexiVan Leasing, an intermodal chassis leasing company. He was previously the Director of West Coast Operations for the French-based ocean carrier CMA CGM. Welcome, Bryan. And Bryant Francis is the Director of Aviation at the Port of Oakland since March of 2016. He leads a staff of more than 200 people responsible for the management of the Oakland International Airport. The airport, by the way, is the second busiest in the San Francisco Bay Area and #1 in air cargo. Mr. Francis was the airport director in Long Beach, California before coming to the port. He was previously also director airport in Shreveport, Louisiana. He also served in executive capacity airports at Boise, Detroit, Palm Springs, and began his career in Atlanta. So welcome, Bryant Francis. All right, so without further talking by my part, I wanted to turn over let me go over some of the today's format. So I'm gonna ask questions of our panelists and general questions about their roles in the East Bay and their contribution to the economy and their plans as Southwest Airlines and GSC Logistics, and also some questions for our port directors. And then we're gonna go to some other questions related to that you have submitted to us, so that we will ask some of those questions. And then at the end, we'll open up to the chat room. So if you have any questions at the end for the panelists as you listen, please put in that chat and we'll be able to get a couple of those questions in. But please do remember, at the end of this session, we're gonna have a raffle generously supplied by Southwest Airlines so that you and your family can travel with those, but you must be present to win. So be here, and hopefully we'll get you a trip to Southwest Airlines. So the first question, I wanted to just give an opportunity to our two business partner panelists, Southwest Airlines and also GSC Logistics, to tell us a little bit about your history as a company operating at the Oakland Airport, overview of history, and also just what is your view about your role in the East Bay economy and the traveling public or the logistics partners, the customers, and what are your plans in the East Bay. So I think we'll start with David Harvey, Southwest Airlines, and I think they have a little bit of presentation as well. David.
Absolutely, and Danny and Stephen, can't thank you enough for the opportunity with the EDA here today. And I just want to echo exactly what was in the video. And I hope everyone's families, loved ones, everyone's doing well. This has been quite the battle the last 15 months. And even though you can it feels like we're at the turn, or you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, we've got to be diligent and all the safety precautions and health and distancing. So I just can't express myself enough on behalf of the entire Southwest Airlines team. So Danny, I'm gonna hit very quickly, and I think it'll cover some of these, and hopefully it'll generate some more conversation as well. You know, Southwest Airlines, we are absolutely committed to the East Bay and to Oakland. We have a long and rich history, and I won't hit all of these, but you can see we kind of slipped in there into Oakland at the very end of the 80s and started out with very humble beginnings, just to a few markets west of the Rockies. And today we've really used that as an anchor point to grow and become the market share leader with almost 80%, carrying almost 80% of all the traffic in and out of Oakland. And something we're really proud there, the bottom right hand, we've got 2,600 employees in Oakland alone. That's not even counting San Francisco and San Jose. We truly treat all three of those markets around the Bay as complementary, but make no bones about it. Oakland is our anchor when we think about the Bay, and we cannot wait to kind of get back to more of those pre-COVID norms with over 13,000 daily passengers. So very quick history, won't hit all this. We actually turned 50 this year. It's our golden anniversary here on June 18th, 2021. And it started on the cocktail napkin, Herb Kelleher down in San Antonio, Texas, trying to figure out how to get Texans out of their cars and into the sky and democratize the sky. At that point, less than 5% of Americans had ever boarded a commercial aircraft. I think he was probably drinking a little wild turkey at the time. And now we are actually during some of the COVID, we've been the largest carrier in the world, let alone the largest domestic carrier. So a lot of first, most of it's organic growth, a little bit of inorganic with acquisitions, became an international carrier there in 2014. And then just over 2 years ago on St. Patrick's Day, our first flights to the islands, to Hawaii. And that first one, I was fortunate enough to be on that first flight from Oakland to Honolulu. And we just continue to grow. And I can't say enough about the role Oakland played as essential air service for Southwest into the islands. That was our anchor point. We had to pull down a lot of our Hawaii service. It's still muted, but Oakland to Honolulu and Maui were the lifelines to the islands. We may be incorporated and based in Dallas, Texas, but we think of ourselves as the hometown carrier and as the airline of California, literally carrying more passengers to, from, and within the Golden State for well over 20 years now. So we got to California in the early 80s and continued to grow. It's where our largest customer base is, and most operations and most employees of any state, and just most recently adding Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, and then Fresno just over the weekend. So thrilled with that. I love that starburst and all of the routes that we serve from Oakland. It is our largest operation in the state, and as I mentioned earlier, will continue to be our anchor point. When our capacity planning and network planning teams think about where's the next aircraft time, the next flight, Oakland always rises to the top of that list. And then, I gave that stat about over 20 years in the state of California. That's also true for Oakland. So carrying more passengers, not only to the 13 states and 29 nonstop destinations, but also have the most intercal traffic in and out of Oakland, and also the gateway to Hawaii. So can't say enough. And Danny mentioned this as well. The cargo, a lot of folks talk about the cargo activity going on down at LAX, but Oakland is booming. It's growing in the pandemic to try to move goods, a lot of freight, a lot of shipments. Oakland has continued to be strong even while the passenger demand was down in COVID. So we see that as big business, both in the belly of the planes and then passengers in the galley. So we're very, very excited about growth coming out of the pandemic. We were talking earlier as we were prepping. I know the state of California is really anchoring on June 15th as the economy is fully opened, and we're bringing our network back online in a major way on June 6th in the state of California, trying to get in front of that. So we want to make sure that we've got the seats and the routes to power a lot of your air service needs. So Danny, I'll pause there, and if there's any questions on that, we can kind of tee that up in the Q&A section.
Sure. Thank you, David, for that brief introduction. I just want to note that as of 2021, Southwest Airlines is the third largest employer in the city of Oakland, and that is absolutely wonderful. And thank you for being a part of the port. I will turn this over to David Arsenault, also a very important partner of the port, but on the seaport side, and people may not be as visible. But David, tell us what you do and what your role in the East Bay is, and also your relationship with your customers here.
Well, thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here, and really appreciate the opportunity to address this group on our webinar today. I hope today finds everyone well. Logistics is alive and well and thriving here in the Port of Oakland, and we are very, very happy to be a part of it. GSE is also celebrating actually 33 years now in Oakland, since we have started back in 1988. And I want to just give, before we jump into some of the Q&A, a little bit of a background and history over where GSE is and where we are going. So let me start first and foremost with who we are. GSE is actually, we're headquartered here in the Port of Oakland building. So I'm one floor below Bryan and Danny here as we speak today. We've been here for a number of years now, and very, very committed to the Port of Oakland. This is where our global headquarters is. And we also have a presence up in the Pacific Northwest. We are involved in all things that are tied to the port here in the Maritime Sector, where we're providing trucking or drayage operations for imports and exports that are being picked up and delivered at the port, as well as really, when you think about transportation today and you can't really talk about goods movement without talking about technology as well. And that is really where we have focused a big part of our intensity here within the company, is developing the technology that's really required to support some fairly complex supply chains, where we are supporting some of the largest retailers in the country and around the world here for cargo that's moving through the Port of Oakland's gateway. So just looking at our locations here, we're as I mentioned, located and headquartered in the Port of Oakland headquarters building, but we also have a large cross-dock operation that is located also here on port property at Building 512, which is serving transload operations for major retailers, where we have over 1,000 equipment parking spaces and 24/7 operations that are getting kicked off as we are actually opening up an expanded network of operations here in 2021 that GSC will be supporting here, with a significant amount of incremental growth that we're seeing coming into this gateway here in Northern California. Where we really thrive is in three key areas of our business model. Drayage, which for those of you who are not familiar with drayage, think of this as not the long haul over the road trucks that you see that are maybe moving goods across the country, but these are the international ocean containers that are coming in and going out of these vessels, off of these vessels, for local pickups and deliveries to and from the port complex. And we are the largest here operating in the Port of Oakland. A little more on that, as well as transloading and cross-dock services and nationwide brokerage for Northern California and in the Pacific Northwest. In terms of drayage operations, we have over 200 trucks here in Oakland, and that fleet is growing on a daily basis, with 75 up in the Seattle and Tacoma in the Northwest Seaport Alliance market. But really using cutting edge and leading technology. Technology is really where we lead all of our intermodal activities and our drayage operations as well, because it's a critical link of the first mile for an export or the last mile for an importer of boxes that are coming into or out of the port here in Oakland that are destined for retail distribution centers here in the North Bay or across the country. So very, very, very integrated in with these customers as really an extension, as a core service partner in providing these types of value-added logistics services. Transloading is something we also pride ourselves in. Today, we have an 80,000 square foot facility with 104 dock doors here on port property, with the capacity to handle over 30,000 containers per year, which will certainly be put to the test this year as we bring on some new business that's just getting ramped up as we speak today for support of boxes that are coming in from Asia that will be then transloaded into domestic trailers that'll be sent across the country to various distribution centers inside the network. So very exciting time right now for Oakland. We also have a nationwide brokerage division, which handles truck moves and capacity in regions across the country from coast to coast. This is kind of an overflow capacity where we are expanding our network as we continue to expand our footprint in supplying and providing supply chain services and logistics services in markets around the country. But really bringing it back to Oakland and the East Bay here, this is clearly where we got our start, and an area that we are completely committed to. We are excited that we're seeing the kind of growth that we're seeing here. For many of you, you see a number of vessels that are anchored out in the San Francisco Bay almost on a daily basis now. That's just another reminder for each of us each and every day here in the Bay Area of how much demand there is that's been pent up, part of which has been impacted certainly through the pandemic, but that this is an essential goods industry. And it's really critical, I think, that many people learned the importance that supply chain plays, which is usually behind the scenes, but certainly we saw that become more to the forefront as we saw consumers that needed to continue to buy goods on store shelves even throughout this pandemic. And we just salute all of the men and women on the waterfront here in our organization with the Longshore Workers Union and all of the other port stakeholders that have kept the goods movement industry healthy and moving in this unprecedented global pandemic. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, David. We'll stay on you for 1 second, so let's not move the screen yet from David. David, I know that folks know that Southwest Airlines move passenger and air cargo. To give us an example of GSC logistics, what is an example of a common good that you move or a client that you serve in the Bay Area?
Well, we are serving some of the big box retailers, but we are also handling the e-commerce sector as well, which is very fast growing and something that we saw actually accelerate the growth in e-commerce and goods movement in that channel. It had been one of the faster growing segments in the industry and in the economy here in the US, but because of the pandemic and shelter in place and stay at home orders, we really saw that explode. But we're also handling a lot of personal protective equipment and gear that's serving companies like Medline and Walgreens that have been long-term partners of GSC Logistics for many, many years, that are keeping goods moving to really support those vital frontline workers that have been combating this pandemic throughout the last 15 months.
How many employees does GSC itself have employed?
Well, I am pleased to say that number is changing on a daily basis and it's moving upwards.
Great.
When I joined back in January, we were just around 80 or 85 employees. We have already added just in this first quarter 50, and we've got plans to add over 150 more new good-paying jobs right here on the waterfront in the next 2 months.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. David Harvey, thank you for your presentation on Southwest, and we are so happy that Southwest does plan to has been and plans to be a stable at the Oakland Airport. So if we can move to David Harvey for 1 second. Maybe, yeah, good. David, so thank you for being a great partner at the airport, Oakland Airport. Tell us a little bit about what your sort of future thinking is in terms of your space and plan that maybe perhaps even in terms of facilities. What do you view your role in terms of filling the facility as the Port of Oakland and improving passenger service in terms of the space there?
Yeah, and Bryant may want to jump in on some of this conversation as well. You know, at the end of the day, Southwest is a point-to-point carrier. So we're really focused on moving passengers and their baggage, 2 bags free on Southwest Airlines, by the way, on a single segment, on a single leg. So we're not focused on a lot of connecting traffic. However, Oakland, with its size and scale, just naturally picks up the opportunity for folks to connect over Oakland. So it kind of gets the best of both worlds. But we are a low-cost carrier, so it's all about high tempo, high utilization of assets, high efficiency. So we want a high-quality customer service. You know, Southwest doesn't have, you know, first class and lounge and all that. Every seat on Southwest Airlines is first class. I might add that little zinger as well. But I think the point being, we need the gate capacity to continue to expand. We operate on 11 gates. I know at full utilization, Bryant, we really get those humming. And there's kind of constantly, Bryant's working with our capacity planning teams and airport affairs teams to try to understand the next wave of growth, how we can support that. Do we have all the ground equipment and baggage services to kind of move all those bags that are flying free? So that just kind of gives you a little bit of the backdrop of what's important to us. It's low cost and running an on-time, reliable operation are the most critical ingredients that get us choosing Oakland over the next best airport. Brian, anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, so let's move to Bryant Francis, our airport director. That's a nice segue into that. I know that we are we're going to be going on the street, like the video says, with environmental document. related to the sort of to the airport infrastructure improvements. Tell us a little bit, Director Francis, about what we're planning at the airport physically in terms of our physical plan and infrastructure to sort of both increase our efficiency and also in terms of expanding business to accommodate folks like Southwest Airlines.
Certainly. Thank you, Danny. And to you, Dave, I just want to say thank you so much for your now 32 years in partnership with the Port of Oakland and operating and growing at OAK. So really excited about that. One of the things that had occurred just prior to the pandemic was in partnership with Southwest, the replacement of all the seating in the Terminal 2 hold rooms, as well as the 2 gates in Terminal 1 that Southwest uses. And we're hoping that over the course of the next 12 months, the next phase of that will be to bring power to those seats. So I know that that's often a question we get asked about is where's the power to plug in while you're sitting and waiting for your departing flights. So very happy to have that as an improvement at our terminal facility, specifically at Southwest Gates. But the airport's long been on a mission to enhance customer experience with numerous improvement projects that have been completed in the 5 years that I've been here, and there are many more to come. Several projects were paused last year due to the uncertainty of business recovery, as you might expect. Thankfully, traffic has begun to rebound. We're consistently seeing traffic reaching the 50 to 55% levels of pre-pandemic times, and we expect that trend to strengthen, especially as the state officially reopens in mid-June, as we've been discussing this morning. So the Port, along with our business partners, has worked to reinitiate several projects that will serve to improve customer service and passenger amenities. One of those is our food and beverage program. The dining program should have been completed. The overhaul and the reimagined program should have been completed by now, with rebranding 17 units across both terminals. But due to COVID, that program was delayed. We have worked with our concessionaire partners, 4 of them, to get back on board, if you will, with a path forward. And so last week, our Board of Port Commissioners approved an amendment that includes a phased program in introducing the new concepts and new units across the terminal facility. So we expect to have 4 new units at least up and open with new branding by the end of this year, and hopefully several more to come in 22 as the passenger traffic continues to rebound. And our retail concessions will be going back out with an RFP in the summer as that agreement ends next spring. So that will be further investment on the retail side, and that'll be all locations, including some new locations in high traffic areas that'll continue to improve the look and the feel within the terminal facility. We're improving signage and wayfinding through the latest and greatest technology that's available. It'll be an interactive solution that we'll be implementing throughout the terminal facility by the end of this year, so look forward to that. Terminal 2, we're replacing the flooring in the gates 20 through 25 area. That's actually begun as of a couple of weeks ago. That will also include a couple of areas in Terminal 1. Restroom upgrades, very important. We'll be getting back on track with that program in the upcoming fiscal year 22, and that'll start in Terminal 1 with our family restroom. Will eventually extend throughout the terminal facility over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. But the most important, and the one that I'm most excited about, is the state and federal environmental entitlement process, and that's regarding future terminal modernization, replacement, and expansion. This will inform the Port on what can be executed in enhancing the customer experience and responding to what we believe will be strong demand in future years for passenger travel. The existing terminal is inadequate, it has shortcomings, it's aging, and it doesn't have the capacity to meet the demand that we see in the future. So ultimately, we hope to renovate portions of the existing facility, replace Terminal 1's ticketing and baggage claim building, and add a yet to be determined number of gates for flight activity. The process is going to kick off officially in late May with scoping sessions. They'll be public and they will be advertised, so we hope that you'll participate in those if you're interested. They'll be held over the course of 2 days with 2 sessions on each day, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. We're really excited about this ultimately because OAK is the only Bay Area airport which has the land available to greatly enhance the terminal infrastructure. We know the population center has long been in the East Bay, and that's not going to change other than continuing to grow. So we must prepare to meet the surge and to better serve the population which is already here. And perhaps some of those people are choosing other airports, and we want them to choose the airport that's right here in their backyard, OAK. So it's our responsibility to continue to improve this major economic engine, and we intend to do just that in the balance of this decade. So very excited about what's coming up, lots happening at the airport, and excited to see passenger traffic rebuilding, especially through the growth of Southwest Airlines and its focus city coming back with higher levels of daily flight departures.
Great, good to see, good to hear, especially as a director who's worried about our budget. It's absolutely wonderful to hear that our passenger counts are rebounding as we at the port depend on our revenues that come in from passenger and cargo. So I know that many on the audience and this is the most frequent thing that I hear about our airport, which is convenient, it's very intimate, and it gets you in and out quickly. So, but as many of you who travel to Terminal 1, it has that nice, unique 1960s feel to it. But I think, some of that needs to be modernized and updated. And we are glad to hear that we're going to be doing a lot to sort of enhance the experience for our passengers, as well as keep our leadership as a convenient airport.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move to Brian Brandis. I know the number one question on people's mind now is what's up with all those ships parked out in the bay? Dozens of them, and even more sometimes. So tell us a little bit about the state of the seaport and what we plan to do to enhance the efficiency of good movement through our region.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you, Dave Arsenault, for your commitment to the Port of Oakland and your 33 years of GSC in the Port of Oakland. It's a significant partner, and we definitely value that relationship. As Dave mentioned, it's e-commerce is booming for all of those that are not spending money, as much money as they were going out traveling. They are spending their money and receiving packages on a daily basis at home, and that is what is driving the demand and the ships in and out of the Port of Oakland. We have been seeing vessels anchored out at the bay and actually out in the coastal waters, and this is really just, as I mentioned, due to the increasing demand. And our women and men on the dock have been throughout this COVID crisis have been able to come to work every day. The port was never shut down. There were at the very beginning, some additional protocols to ensure the cleaning and everything was done, but it's critical to remind everybody that the port remained open throughout this entire crisis, and we really want to thank the women and men on the waterfront for that for their loyal work to the port. So what do we have going on in the port to accommodate this volume? We've got our marine terminal operators, as Danny mentioned, we're a landlord port, so the marine terminal operators do and manage the actual business working the vessels in and out of the port. And our terminal operators, they're investing in new large cranes. As you saw in the video today, we've got some of the largest cranes that arrived early this year to handle the largest vessels that are on the water. We've also got new systems, to improve the transactions in and out of the terminal. And then also the terminal operators have invested in cleaner equipment and will be investing in cleaner equipment as new equipment becomes available. The port, we are investing in terminal developments as well. We're also looking at investing in electrical infrastructure to ensure that as the demand for electrical electric equipment comes online, that the port will be ready to supply the energy for this clean equipment. We're also investing in port communication systems, which really allows the truckers to be more informed to move throughout the port in a much more efficient manner. And also mentioned in the video earlier today was really as 2021 will really be a year of planning at the seaport. So we are about to embark on a diverse stakeholder group encompassing stakeholders from the industry, but also stakeholders from the community, regulatory agencies, including the cities. And we're really going to take a look at what are all the needs in the port, and how do we best utilize the remaining land that we have to develop the old Army base. This is going to be a project that will take the remainder of the year, and we really are looking forward to a good product by the end of the year that really helps us in making all future land use decisions.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Danny.
Sorry. Thank you, Brian, for that summary. And we'll have 3 minutes for this panel, and then before we move to Q&A. Just one last question for anybody here on the panel to address. What makes the East Bay a great market to do your business for you? And what do we need to do to help you to ensure that East Bay continues to be the preferred place for your business? Anybody want to take that?
I'll certainly take that, Danny. Thank
you.
Sure. Just from a GSE perspective, we really view Oakland extremely strategically. Oakland has traditionally been a strong export port, supporting the U.S. exports moving back over to Asia, because it's typically been a second port of call, with vessels that call Southern California first and then calling Oakland as a second, which makes it a better and a faster transit time for exports. But what we're seeing through this pandemic is that some of the congestion that's being caused in all of the ports around the country as cargo volumes are surging has really opened up a significant opportunity here for the Port of Oakland and the East Bay to really rise to the challenge. And now we have ocean carriers that are looking at Oakland with a fresh lens as a new opportunity to begin to attract first vessel calls that avoid Southern California and come to Oakland first, with better and improved transit times and a much better reach not just the local market here in the East Bay, but even intermodal markets, using our two partners, the UP Railroad and the BNSF, two of the Western Class 1 railroads that have on-terminal rail operations here, to make sure that we are using Oakland as a gateway to really to the rest of the North America market for imports and exports. So it's a very balanced market, and we found a very high level of cooperation and support from the port as we've seen our business grow and our customers continue to look at establishing a stronger presence here. We've been really able to grow with this great support from Bryan and you, Danny, and the rest of the port team here to allow us to continue to scale our operations up, where we're essentially doubling our business in the market here this year with that kind of aggressive growth to meet the growing needs of the market here in the logistics space.
Thank you. I know.
Danny,
yes, David, go ahead.
If I may, just very quickly, you heard Bryant hint at where the population lives, so we know that that's going to continue to grow on the East Bay. The first thing that came to my mind was also congestion and the ability to grow that we don't necessarily have over at SFO. Mother Nature is much kinder on the east side of the bay as well, that allows us to run a much cleaner operation. So we're excited. We're a few years off from doing international code shares and partnerships, but I even think it gives us the opportunity to partner with Bryant and team to kind of recruit some Asian carriers to fly into Oakland to kind of marry up with our strong domestic network as well. So it creates a lot more opportunity and upside for us.
Thank you. So now we're gonna, there's Bryant and Bryan. I think we'll just move on to the Q&A section now. Just a reminder that at the end of the Q&A section, we are going to have a raffle at the courtesy of Southwest Airlines. So that's going to be exciting. That's always, so stick around as we go through the Q&A section. So I'm gonna read some questions that we've gotten from our audience before this seminar. So let's see. In terms of our workforce, obviously, we're very concerned about economic development as well as jobs. What do we need in order to prepare our local workforce for the jobs that you demand in your business and the skills emanating from the Port of Oakland? And what kind of community involvement are we seeing? So let's address the jobs question first. What kind of job skills do you need, and how do you see us preparing for the workforce that you need in the East Bay? Let's see, unless somebody want to volunteer for that, I'm going to pick Bryan Brandis first.
Yeah, good morning. I think that's a great question. So we really need to work with the local training centers and high schools to make them, aware of all the great opportunities, in logistics, in both of the, well, I'm speaking for the port, but both of the port and the airport. I think it'd be a good opportunity to work with them, develop programs, and as I mentioned, on education, and develop training programs. We really need to bring the youth into the into the industry.
David, any of the Davids?
I would just echo Bryan that it is really important that we create an increased level of awareness. The supply chain in and of itself is somewhat out of sight, out of mind. The average U.S. consumer kind of takes it for granted. They don't really think about what the life of a product had in order to reach to a store shelf. In some ways, I think many people have kind of been spoiled that they just expect to see goods on a store shelf. And maybe going back to a lesson learned through this pandemic, when we saw, a toilet paper shortage back in March a year ago, people started really asking questions about where did this toilet paper come from, and how does it arrive on that shelf, and why are there shortages? We need to really work very closely to increase the level of awareness. Supply chain affects everybody in day-to-day life. That's why it was determined to be an essential industry. And we really need to see, to make the local community and students that are coming out of high schools and colleges more aware of how many lucrative jobs they are that are very good paying jobs that are in the logistics industry and goods moving industry that involve everything from the crane operators and the other workers in the ILWU workforce that are loading and unloading the ships, to the drivers that are moving the goods by truck to and from warehouses, to the warehouse workers, to the technology companies that are providing the visibility inside each of these units in this ecosystem to provide a heightened level of visibility to how the goods are moving, where they're physically located at any given time and moment in that supply chain, and most importantly, when are they forecasted to arrive at their final destination so that the consumers can get their hands on them. So it's really a public outreach to create enhanced awareness so that people are aware of the type of jobs and the many types of jobs that are available in the supply chain, in the logistics goods movement industry. And a lot of it is very practical, where we also offer very robust on-the-job training for individuals that come in. So even people that don't have a background in this industry, come and give it a try. We'll give you the training that you need to get started.
Thank you. I know that GSC Logistics also participates in sourcing their jobs with our local job training center, so I much appreciate it. All right, so next question is, we know there's both on the federal and state level, and also as well as the local level, people are very much concerned about carbon footprint and and reducing greenhouse gases, also making sure that we are sensitive and we are responsive to our local communities as we operate within with our neighbors. So what do you see in the trend in terms of innovation and creativity that we are putting into your respective businesses industry to make sure that we take care of our environment? Who wants to take that first?
I can go first, Danny. Yeah, it's a big challenge. It's one of the biggest challenges ahead of all of us in our professional careers. and there's not any one company out there. So it really needs to be industry solutions. Danny, you hinted at it, kind of solutions at the state and federal level. Just kind of speaking on behalf of the airline industry here for a moment, I think us and our partners in crime, our competitors, are taking this extremely seriously. So we're very much lined up with Paris Treaty, so 2050, as well as lined up with our major trade association, A4A, Airlines for America, as well as IATA at the international level, really trying to neutralize our carbon footprints over that time. There is a lot of R&D and a lot of technology, because they're, carbon sequestration, carbon offsets, some of those things are more or less effective, but that's not going to get us there. It really, for the airlines, you're going to be hearing a lot more about SAF, sustainable aviation fuels. So last week was actually Earth Day on the 22nd, and a lot of the airlines, but Southwest included, made some major investments with kind of R&D and also some commitments with some producers of SAF over the next 5 to 10 year horizon to get hundreds of millions of gallons so that we can have that technology to put in the power plants, which is the engine of the plane. So a big battle, but we are up for the challenge, and the airline industry looks forward to doing our part to neutralize that carbon footprint.
Thank you.
And Danny, if I could just
Yes.
add the maritime sector, there's been a lot of focus on this area on all fronts, kind of from an industry perspective, from the ocean carriers coming in 200 miles off the coast. There's something called the emissions control area, where all fuel is switched over to the cleanest burning fuel on a vessel as ships enter the port here, to help improve and enhance the environment. Also, something called cold ironing, as ships arrive here at the berth, to get plugged into shore power so they can shut off the plant on the ship for the power generation that's required. From a GSE perspective, we were first to really get out and lean heavily into this from an environmental and sustainability impact by investing in electronic vehicles, which we've continued to look at, and we're exploring all types of alternative means. And we've just recently developed a complete sustainability team with ownership to now really look at new emerging technology, some of which may not even have been, doesn't even exist today, to really meet some of the changes and needs and demands of the motor carrier industry, to ensure that we are getting to a zero or near zero emissions carbon footprint as we look forward. So we're continued to work very closely with the port on the infrastructure that's required, as well as the technology that's required to really meet these growing needs of sustainability in the port area.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes left of this great conversation. We have a whole bunch of questions that was pre-submitted. Again, stay tuned for the raffle, but let me read off some of the questions from the chat panel here. David, Harvey, what's the current situation regarding the Boeing 737 MAX and Southwest stock of airplanes?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a long history there. So we've been an only Boeing operator, 737 operator, for 50 years. And we were the launch customer of the MAX back in 2017. Clearly, 2 tragic events on the other side of the globe. And the fleet was grounded in 2019. We did, as well as other US-based carriers, return to service for us was in March. Other US airlines started as early as December. I would just submit to the audience, it is the most scrutinized, most examined aircraft. It is our growth. We actually just re-upped our order book and added a bunch more. Our pilots, our mechanics, the planes are ready, they're trained. So they're out there flying, they're doing great. We're getting great feedback, they're safe. And that is going to be the backbone of our growth going forward. So a lot of confidence.
Good. Looking forward to that coming back online, though that was a constraint on the air industry for a long time.
And Danny, it's actually 15% more fuel efficient. So it's also a much more economically and carbon footprint, 40% less quiet, more quiet. So it's a better experience for the passenger as well. And you can see that in the customer satisfaction numbers.
This question either goes to Brian Brandis or David. What rail infrastructure can improve and support increased freight and improve supply chain passenger rail? Elizabeth Ames asked, for example, can we place a critical link rail 1929 rail drawbridge bottleneck for freight and passenger located between Martinez and Benicia? So what is the future of using rail infrastructure as a better way to move, or not a better way, but a supplemental way to move our cargo?
Yep, I'll take that. So we've got two rail providers, the UP and the BN, and we're constantly working with both of them to look at opportunities to move more cargo via rail. As most are aware, that moving the cargo via rail is a more environmentally friendly solution to move cargo at a longer distance. We're also looking at working with other areas and adding new rail hubs west of the Rockies, when traditionally most of the rail hubs off the West Coast have been east of the Rockies. So with respect to that specific question on a drawbridge, I'm going to have to get back to that, because I have not been working with the UP on that particular issue, but I definitely can.
Great. I've got several questions from folks asking about what is the best way for local vendors and contractors to get in touch with us. I guess we don't have so I guess Brian, you want to tackle that, or Brian Francis, or Brian Brandis, or anybody? How do we increase local contracting opportunities?
So we actually have a as far as reaching out, I mean, you can definitely communicate directly with all of us here at the port, and also via our website. But as far as contracting opportunities, our board recently reapproved our MAPLA agreement from 2016, which has provisions in it for local hiring. Requires prevailing wages and contributes to social justice funds. So we have a program that really supports and emphasizes local hiring. And
just a supplement, the Port of Oakland itself has a local business program for contractors, that we hold workshops with our social responsibility department. And you have an opportunity to certify yourself as a local contractor. And we certainly try very hard to, both on the front of local hiring, working with our partners like Southwest and GSC, to encourage them to source jobs from local hiring centers, but as well as on contracting front, we do certify. And if you've not done that, please contact our Department of Social Responsibility, who keeps a list, and we frequently send out notices for contracting opportunities, as well as hold workshops about how we can increase that opportunity for our local contractors. All right, I think we're about time. And again, thank you very much. I know there's some questions about Howard Terminal, but that itself is going to be a subject for another future discussion for another hour or so. But just so that you know that the environmental document's out there and the city is taking comments. We've also had some questions about, so there's some international events and stuff that's going on around us. And again, we will, that's too big the topic to cover. Just a reminder, the Port of Oakland has a third line business, which you did not address today, which is commercial real estate. That's a 20 miles of waterfront that we do visitor-oriented issues, and also real estate. We're fairly active in the real estate market here in the commercial leasing properties. That probably is a topic for probably leasing real estate panel, if I ever do one. So thank you very much for the great questions, and I'll hand it back over, I guess, to Stephen to do the raffle.
Thank you, Danny, and thanks to our great panel. David, I'm going to leave it to you, because thanks to your partnership, and I'd like to mention Southwest has been a really strong partner of East Bay EDA and a member of ours for a number of years, and been thrilled to be able to give out e-passes from time to time. And I'll let you go ahead and take the floor to announce our winners.
Excellent. The moment you've all been waiting for, kind of into the hour here, to see who the winners are. I need the winners to kind of throw in the chat just to verify you're still here where you plan to use these tickets. Where's the first destination you're going to go to out of OAK? So the first winner, drum roll, is Mr. Joshua Hurwitz with Moffitt Nickel. Congratulations. Throw something in the chat. Let us know that you're still out there so we don't pass to somebody else. I know we're short on time here. Number 2, drum roll please, is Robin Newton with Tri-Commercial. Congratulations. Exciting to offer you these tickets.
Thank you so much, David, and we're excited for our winners. I know we're at time. I just want to say thanks again to the Port of Oakland, GSC Logistics, Southwest Airlines. East Bay EDA has a number of events coming up. Our next event is on May 21st for spring membership. We're talking about the future of food, and we have a couple great events in June, one on public health and another on the sort of the state of the state and region and national economy with Chris Thornburg. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Everyone.